Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. My name's Joe Grumbine and I will be your host. And I have Cynthia Jimenez back with me today. And she's been here a year ago. It's been almost a complete year. Welcome, Cynthia. How are you doing today?
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me back. I can't believe it's been that long, but I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's crazy. I was just looking at the at the schedule of all the different podcasts that we put, and you're one of the, I don't know, you're the second or third one that we did, and that was literally more than a year ago that we recorded it. And so much has happened. We've been working together a little bit, and we finally got you out to the gardens. We did a remote Reiki session, and we're here to talk more about Reiki. So why don't you do this? Because it's been so long for most people, and I encourage everybody to go back and listen to the first episode because it was good too. It was really good. But Reiki is an experience, and it's about experience. And this is all, it's all happening all the time. You've done, I don't know, dozens or maybe hundreds of sessions since we talked last time. And now, why don't you share with us a little bit about what is Reiki and why would somebody be interested in doing a treatment?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and thanks again for having me back. And yeah, let's talk about Reiki. So Reiki is it's a modality. It's healing,
You know what,
energy
Cynthia?
healing. You
I
could
think,
say Reiki.
hold on. Cynthia, I think I'm going to need you to turn your camera off. And the reason why is you're coming through a little bit spotty. I think we just don't have a great connection. So let's just turn your camera off.
Oh, turn it
We'll
off?
have a cleaner connection. You'll sound clear. How's that?
Is that okay?
Yes, much better.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah, and for the most part, this is an audio feed anyways. So yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, Reiki is a energy modality, energy healing. It comes from people say Asia, some people say India, many thousands of years ago. But it was brought back in the late 70s, I believe, to Hawaii and then to the US. I've been practicing 2017. And so yeah, Reiki is really good for stress reduction. I like to call it a energy detox. It's really great for cleansing the immune system. It's really great for whatever kind of intention you have also, like if you have a goal, if you have maybe something emotional that you're working through, some kind of trauma. It's also really great for that to help process maybe things that haven't been processed. So all around, it's really great to help with a lot of things like letting go. It just really depends on the person and kind of where they're at that stage. So that's a little bit about Reiki, and also it can be done distance, like absent healing. You don't have to be in the room with the practitioner to be receiving or to feel it. So yeah, it can be done in those ways. It can also be done as a group. It could be done on animals, on plants, on objects. It also cleanses like spaces. So it could also be done in rooms. Since honestly, anywhere. It could be done on food and your drinks, resumes. Like you can get very creative, and it could be done
So
pretty much on anything.
since we talked last, and I've spent a little bit of time thinking about it. Plus, you did a session with me almost a year ago. It was a long time ago. And in my experience, I'll share that as well. But when you think about it, we're all creatures that are made of energy. And I was talking to somebody else about, when we see something, you don't really see what you think you're seeing, right? I mean, if you shrink everything down to molecules, what is actually happening is mostly energy or electricity or however you want to describe it, and a few little pieces and a lot of empty space, right? I mean, like, we're not even made of solid stuff mostly, and all the energy that we are, I think, is bigger than the particles that are actually mass, right? So it makes sense that if you could become tuned in to that energy on that level. So like when you're talking about a room or a plant or your food or a group or whatever, it really kind of is like tuning into that channel and being able to communicate or direct or align, or I don't know what the right term is, but to affect that energy in a way that brings that harmony. So like if you think about energy, it's like waves of sound, and
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
starts playing a note on a guitar or a piano or something, it sends out a frequency, right? It's energy. And then
Yes.
you play two or three or four notes that are the right ones in harmony, and they make a beautiful chord or a beautiful sound. But then if you just go and hit a bunch of
That's
notes,
correct. Yeah. And you
it's
can see that in
also,
plants. You can
yeah,
go
it's
see
also
that in
energy.
plants. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
that's kind of how I saw it. I don't know, but it makes sense, like to be able to affect something without seeing it. We live in a world where everything's connected, and we don't have to understand it, we don't have to see it, but it's real. Like, I don't know how many times, like, they talk about the physicist and string theory, and something happens over here and everything in the
Mhm.
universe is affected by it. Well, I kind of
Mhm.
think that's true, and it seems that if you could be aware of, if you did this over here, then that might happen over there, then that would give you a great tool to be able to help people. Am I even on the right page, or?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's in Reiki. That's I guess the theory is that, everything is vibrating, everything is energy. Even down to every cell, everything is, and then we're mostly made out of water.
Hmm?
Water has memory. And of course, well, like how you're saying, when you play a sound, whatever sound it could be, it affects us and it affects everything around us. And especially us humans because we were made out of water. And just with the good of that, or the I guess you could say bad or negative, or whatever it is, it could affect us. And also that's kind of how Reiki is I guess, Reiki practitioners, they're not, it's not their energy, it's energy that's all around us. So when I work on someone, I'm not giving them my energy. I'm
Ah,
pretty much just reading them. I'm the instrument. I'm like the TV or the receiver. I'm just receiving the signal and it's going and flowing through me. And as I'm touching the person or laying my hands on the person, then I get to communicate. There's a communication between, and it's more than just the physical. It's like all, and it kind of goes a little bit deeper too. It's like the subconscious things that the person can't pick up on usually, or that they know there's something going on, but they really don't know where it's coming from, where they can't really pinpoint them. But through, going through like a Reiki session, like it'll start coming up. It'll bring things to the surface, so that the body can
like
heal
you
itself.
you might have somebody come to you and they say, I just am sluggish, I don't feel like I have any energy, or maybe they feel, I don't know, whatever, maybe they're sore or they just, something isn't right, and then you go in and you spend this time with them, whether it's in person or remotely, but you plug in almost to their frequency, like you said, their channel. You tune into them, and then
Mhm.
you might feel something. So you must have a lot of empathic abilities, in the sense of like you have to be able to feel what somebody else is feeling in order to be able to
Yes.
help them.
Yes, and it's a lot of work. That's why, like, the Reiki practitioners have to practice a lot. Um, because we have to figure out whether it's our feelings or it's coming from them. Once you kind of get it down, then it's not you, it's coming from the person. And when, like I was saying with Reiki, it's a laying of hands, right? So we start at the head. We start, putting our hands at the head, and usually heat comes from our hands. It's a little bit different in distance, but it's usually the same. How do I say? Uh, Result or feel. Some
Okay.
people feel it more than others, so it just really depends. But yeah, so we're channels. We place our hands and go down the body. And then I also read the chakras, so it's very connected. I work a lot on the seven main energy centers, which is the chakras, which we can actually do a whole nother podcast on just the chakras
Yeah,
alone.
I would love to do that because I know a little bit about chakras. It's funny because what you're talking about is so real. Like when you say practice, it's like everything you do. If you're a lawyer, you don't do law, you practice law. If you're a doctor, you don't do medicine, you practice medicine. If you are a practitioner of any kind, you don't do Reiki, you practice Reiki, right? I mean, so everything's practice. I'm a formulator and the things and a teacher, and I practice that because if I don't, you lose it. You forget,
Yeah,
you make mistakes, you misread, you get clumsy if you don't do it. It's like dancing, I guess. I'm not a dancer, but
yeah, 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 yeah.
if you don't practice what you're doing, you get not as good at it. But when you do practice, I think you find yourself getting into like what they call getting into a flow or a groove easier. Like,
Yeah, it just comes more natural.
yeah, yeah. So I know like when I'm making products or creating, I get into that space. And if I can get in that space regularly, all of a sudden you just like, oh yeah, boom. And it doesn't take me an hour to prepare for it. I just slide right on in. I would think it might be similar. Like if you're doing sessions every day or you're doing multiple sessions, even though it might be, taxing on your energy or having to go through and feel all that, energy from so many people. But still, I think it's like working out or whatnot. You get stretched, you get strong, you get ready, and you just keep doing it. It
Oh
seems like
yeah.
it might be easier.
Yeah, the yoga helps.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
That's like how I stay like healthy and strong and clear
we'll
is with the
have to
yoga.
do a whole nother session on yoga because I don't know a whole
Yeah.
lot about yoga either, but I want
Yeah.
to learn. So I think that's
Yeah. Yeah,
also
that could be a whole nother one just with
absolutely.
that. Yeah. There's a lot of info.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to the Reiki, so yeah, um so it's not my energy. So when I do a Reiki session, it's also helping me because I'm also receiving the Reiki, and it's, flowing out through them. And the only way that I get tired is through concentration, and of course having my hands hovering, or having my hands out, like in and over hovering over people or placing them, and standing kind of hunching over. Then yeah, that if I do maybe like 5-6 sessions a day, yeah, that could get really tiring.
Right. Well,
um,
there's a physical element to it regardless, even though it's all energy, you're still, like you say, you're physically moving and putting yourself in a position that, would be tiring. Any position could get tiring if you're doing it long enough, right?
yeah, yeah. So
So
yeah, and then oh yeah.
is, is there like when somebody comes to you, is there ever a situation where you just like, oh wow, I don't know if I can do this? Like, is everybody that comes to you with whatever issue they have, do you just automatically say, okay, like, I mean, there are some people that are just not good people, and I don't want to think that, but I've experienced it. And maybe there's somebody that would say, just be a dark person that would say, I want to be better at what I'm doing, or what, who knows? I mean, maybe they're just super angry, or I don't know. There's all kinds of reasons why things would not be ideal. Is there ever a situation where somebody comes to you and you're just like, I don't know, this isn't going to be a good match?
Honestly, I've only turned one person away, and that
Really?
was when I was first starting.
Okay.
Um, it was because I'm not gonna share any names. It was just because they were not doing the work themselves. They were
Okay.
just relying it all on me.
Ah.
Like, they would, when they were at and, making bad decisions, choices when they know they had to stick to a certain,
Hmm.
thing for their health or for their mental health, whatever it was, or just a habit, that kept, they knew that they shouldn't be doing certain things, and they just keep doing it, and then when it gets really, really bad, then they come see me and they're like, "Oh, I need to see you."
Can you
Like,
fix
not
it?
respect Yeah, like, fix me, like, not respecting my schedules or my boundaries, and,
So you're not a
so I
vitamin B shot.
Yeah. I know it feels really nice and relaxing when you during a session, but so yeah, that was the only time, and it was when I was very new to this, and I
Hmm.
was just starting, and I was learning how to say no to people and putting up my boundaries, and like calling in like what I like to call is like my perfect client.
Well, and
Yeah.
I suspect that since you're working in the energy world, that when you're putting out there what you're hoping to accomplish, it probably happens easier the way you see it, because that's how things work, right? I mean, you set an
Yeah.
intention and you put that energy out there. Usually, that thing that you're thinking about is the thing that happens, right?
Yeah, 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 and then after that, I had a talk with that person, and I told them that I had to take a break from them for a while, and I explained that, kept explaining it and made sure they understand how Reiki works, and
Mm-hmm.
that I'm just the channel, like, it's not my energy. Because they would come at me like, "I need your energy," and I was like, "Oh, no." I was like, "No, you don't."
Yeah, yeah.
I'll show you, but yeah, that was the only time, and that was a long time ago. But I did end up seeing the person again later on, and they were a lot different.
Okay.
So that was nice that they did, make that change or that shift. Because I can tell like when a person comes in and they're like, well, when they lie, or I can tell.
Yeah, I
Like
was
it's
gonna
just that
say, I
a
bet you
feeling.
sometimes people come to you, it's like when somebody wants help for a friend, right? And
Yeah.
they tell you about this problem that the friend has, and you're like, hey, wait a minute. I bet you know that friend pretty good, huh?
Yeah, 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 and it's obvious, and, I can tell, like, I gotta get a certain feeling when and it's mostly when I'm, I guess I could say it on, like, when I'm, ready for Reiki sessions, it's felt more because I'm more open. Usually when I'm just doing, day-to-day things, I kinda try to, kinda minimize that, but yeah, I'm like, I can tell. So I'm just like, "Okay, I'm just hearing them out." I don't say anything, but I'm just like, "Okay, I'll listen to you."
Sure.
Uh, but yeah, that's probably the only one, and then recently, since I just, opened up the office, I've been getting a lot of more, like, serious cases and more severe, I guess, where I'm like, "Okay, I need to see you once a week."
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's been like that, and I've been doing a lot of distance work too.
So it seems that, like a lot of treatments, when you are using Reiki, I guess your intention matters a lot too. So, like different practitioners have different modalities, different ways of doing it. But I think most practitioners are they have a fundamental core where somebody comes to them with a problem, and then the practitioner seeks to help them with that problem. And it could be a symptomatic help, or it could be a core help. And it seems like if your focus is on the core, of the problem, then it's going to be a little more involved to solve it. Whereas if your goal is just to make you feel better, you can do that probably pretty simply. But whatever the problem is, if you're not getting after it, it's going to come back, or
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's gonna keep coming back, and we call it the root cause.
All right, that makes
Root
sense.
cause of the issue or the problem or the
Mhm.
challenge. It's like what I like to say. And then I also tell like, yeah, so I just get different things too, and it's not always physical.
Mhm.
As of lately, I've been seeing a lot of uh like people in business, small business,
Okay.
who are just or having an issue like financially. And
Oh,
they've asked me to do Reiki on their space, like their business space.
oh, really?
Yeah. And I did one on an Instagram page.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was my I hadn't done that. That was my first time doing it for a client. It was really
Wow.
interesting.
So, so how do you get like it's like the difference between the creator and the creation, right? So if somebody creates a space and wants you to make an adjustment or affect that space, how do you get to the root? Like the person that made that space would be the root. So
Yeah.
it would
Yeah,
be
it's usually
more,
the person.
yeah. So it seems like there's two things you could do. One, you could go out and make a little adjustment to the finished work and cause it to be better. I mean, is that connected to like feng shui in any way? I don't know much about feng shui either, so I don't know if it has any.
You know what? I just took a feng shui course like 2 years ago, and I
Okay.
didn't really connect it together until like recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So maybe that's why I've been like being called more to spaces.
Okay.
Um and I also did a cannabis grow
Oh,
just to share.
interesting.
Yeah. I did cannabis grow, and then the woman's Instagram, or the lady's, the person, was really interesting. Because it's like we put all this energy into the things that we create, like how you were saying.
Right.
So like it's all of her in the Instagram,
Hmm.
and like the things that are affecting her business, because it was for her business. So it was like all those things that are affecting her business. And so she said that she hadn't gotten a client in 3 months.
Whoa.
I did the session for her. She said the next day she got 2 clients.
Wow.
Yeah. I was amazed. I was like, "Oh my God, really?"
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Well,
yeah.
it makes sense because, like you said, when somebody's marketing, they're broadcasting, right? They're trying to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I do this thing, or I make this thing, or I have this thing, and I want you to want it and
Mhm.
ask me for it, right? Whatever it is, doesn't matter if it's a service, a product, whatever." And so when you go on to something like Instagram or YouTube or wherever, even something like this podcast, the goal is to reach people. And sometimes it feels like nobody hears you, right? I mean, like
Mhm.
it's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. She was
Some
spending thousands of dollars on
Wow.
uh, marketing, these people that are online that you pay, like,
Hmm.
she her friends, like, would recommend places and things and all these cool, like, and they would get thousands of views. They're like 21K, you
Wow.
know, big accounts,
Hmm.
and hers nothing, nothing. And if you look at her account, it looks great.
Okay.
It's like beautiful. It's like so professional. I'm like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
and I asked her, I was like, I want to ask you something, and I hope you don't get offended. Like, why don't you have more people like looking at all your content?
Yeah.
It's like beautiful. So then that's when she opened up about
Uh,
what was going on with her business. So yes, how you were saying, whatever it is that she's putting out there, if like the person behind it is not at their greatest moment, then that's what they're putting out there. And
uh,
that's the vibration and the feel that they're putting out there.
it
So
makes
if you're on Instagram, like going and searching, and you're like, and a lot of people are very sensitive to energy and they don't even know it.
right.
So, And so if they're going on her Instagram and at that state that she was putting it out there, they're going to be like, oh, this is maybe not the greatest place to go if it feels this way.
But it makes sense because like I always use this example because it's just everywhere. But like when somebody is in a good relationship and they go to a place where there's a lot of people, a lot of times people will be attracted to that person and want to talk to them,
Mhm.
right? And
It's
you're
true.
just not even in a unhealthy way, just you generally are appealing to be around, or you want to be around that person. There's a charisma or whatever that comes from it. But then when that very same person, when that relationship goes south, or they're all by themselves, or they're wanting a relationship, all of a sudden it's the opposite. Like nobody wants to talk
Mhm.
to the person who's trying to
That's
hook up.
yeah.
And 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 there's no word said. That person looks exactly the same. They dress the same. They smell the same. They look everything, right? Maybe they're even more appealing because they took a little more care of themselves because they want to make sure they're all dolled up or whatever. But like you said, I think that people smell that. Like there's not really smell it, but they sense it.
Mhm.
There's a neediness or an unease or something's off, right? Because
Yeah.
you're hungry,
Yeah.
and I think people sense it, and I think you're spot on because I know, like whenever I get in a struggle, my natural instinct is to try harder, right? Because
Mhm.
wired that way. If something's not working, well, then I must not be trying hard enough. I better get at it harder. And it seems like the harder I try, the less good something works. And then all of a sudden something changes, and all of a sudden you get into a groove and you're back flowing, and all of a sudden it just comes right all back. I
Yeah.
could never really put my head to like what that change is, but now that we're talking on an energy level, it makes perfect sense. So
And it could also be like that you were more relaxed and not thinking about it so much. And usually, when we're in a state of relaxation, like we tend to work, our body tends to function like more naturally how it's supposed to, and we think more clear. And there's so much with that too, and that goes in hand with Reiki too. So that's another big thing about Reiki. That's like the biggest like benefit is that it relaxes the body like to
mm,
a certain point where you go into a deep relaxation, almost like a very deep meditation where you can't move, like you're aware, like